there. How are you? No, n- um, uh, Ed, Ed, Michael Baker's not here, so will you do the invocation? Okay, are we good? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. If the clerk would call the roll.
Good evening, Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval,
Present.
Mr. Badura,
Here.
Mr. Vine,
Here.
Mr. Davis,
Here.
Mayor Benjamin.
Thank you. Before we get started with the Pledge of Allegiance, I did want to say this is our first evening meeting since the loss of our colleague Leona Plow, and we just want to recognize her absence and that she will be sorely missed. And we wanted to at least memorialize her as best we could this evening, and so we want to thank staff for helping us do that. We have draped Leona's chair, and it will remain draped until that position is filled by the special election in January. But at this time, I would ask if Reverend McDowell would, I'm going to take the pledge and invocation out of order, because I'm going to ask if Reverend McDowell would bring a few words and then also bring us the invocation.
Leader, passionate, a tender warrior, transitioned from this side to the other. Not only will we miss her, we will miss her persistence in trying to at least give us the necessary information we needed to act fiduciarily. Some years ago, I met Leona, and of course, at the very end of her life, as she and I conversed, it was not the traditional political jargon we would talk. It was just simply, Ed, pray for me. Pray for this community. During our call meeting, of course, Leona, the memorial service we'd already held the memorial service. And just a few of us was here, a quorum actually. But I wanted to say just a word to you all and, of course, to this community. This was, in the Bible, it says that one of the prophets was called a stickler for detail. Leona was a stickler for detail. And for that, we are thankful and gracious for her lead. Libby, with the help of others, members of the staff, draped this chair. It was just a chair until they draped it. Now it's a beautiful chair representing the legacy of this tender warrior. So as I pray today, not only will we remember her, but we will pray also for this community for all of its strength, for all of its resiliency, for everything that this community does for us. We're going to pray that that legacy continues within each of us. Let us pray. Creator God, for the blessings you've already bestowed upon us, for grace that surrounds us, for love that undergirds us. Lord, we bow in this place, a place where decisions are made, where conversations is engendered. We simply ask that you might bless those of us who sit around this table, and for our friend and colleague who has transitioned from this life to the other. We would simply ask that you might continue to be with Joe and other members of this family. Be with this city of ours as we continuously progress, as we expand our horizons. Touch us in such a way that lives are touched, sensitized, and that this city becomes that beacon of light in South Carolina. We ask it and claim it in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend McDowell. Okay, at this time, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Wilson?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, at this time, we would ask council to adopt the agenda. And there are two noted items listed, one removed at 41, I believe, 41, and item 48A deferred.
Is there a motion?
So move.
It's been properly moved in second. If the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Badura? Mr. Vine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Thank you.
I would ask for any public input related to these agenda items at this time.
Is there? I see none.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. At this time, we would ask council to approve the minutes of January 19th, 2016 work session and September 6th, 2016 work session and council meeting.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's probably moved in second. If the clerk will read the roll.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Badura? Mr. Vine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin, sorry. We missed him.
Thank you. Council, if you would consider approving the consent agenda items 9 through 40 and item 42.
Okay.
Move. Move. Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will read the roll.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Badura?
Aye.
Mr. Vine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, for item 43, council is asked to approve a project for asphalt paving repairs at Wildwood Down Circle and Wildwood Point as requested by the Utilities and Engineering Department. The award to Carolina Tap and Bore, a certified local business enterprise, in an amount not to exceed $217,360. The firm is located in West Columbia. I did ask the staff to pull this item from the consent agenda just so that I could bring the council's attention, and certainly there's nothing wrong with the procurement of this item, and you all are definitely free to consider approving it. I have had some concerns that I've expressed with staff about the costs of some of our procurement, which seem to be elevated. I think it is a factor of the economy, which I understand that, and that's a good thing for our community and our economy, that we're in a place where it seems to be a lot of work going on. I know I was driving home last night, and everywhere I went, there was a lot of state roads being worked on, et cetera. But at the same time, I know this council's been very intentional about having procurements that meet with the local business preference, that meet with a lot of our programs for mentor protege, subcontractor outreach, and making sure that small minority and women-owned businesses are able to participate. This is a very probably small procurement in the grand scheme of things. There are going to be some others that are going to be brought to your attention where I will probably be sharing with you my concerns with the amount of responses that we're getting on some of these, because I do think, and staff has done a very good memo, I probably disagree with them to a certain degree on their attempt maybe to explain, which I think is true, that this project may have had some other complications, but at the same time, I just want us and the staff, and I'm going to be really drilling them hard to make sure that as we're going through procurements with taxpayer dollars, that we're making sure that these procurements are truly not being elevated because there is a lack of responses, even though they put it out twice, et cetera. I just want to reserve the opportunity to discuss that concern with you all at the appropriate time.
Ms. Wilson, I think looking at the memo, it appears as if our estimate for this total project was $136,000, and then the bid that is in front of us to improve is $217,000. So it's substantially higher than what we estimated. And I know you mentioned some reasons, and I see the memo. Just for the public, can you articulate some of the reasons that staff has mentioned why we believe that the bids came in so much higher than our estimate?
Sure. I know with this particular procurement, and there is a sense of urgency because it's a pavement at a retirement community, and I know those folks are very anxious for the work to get done, so we certainly don't want to hold it up any longer. But I think that was explained to me, that the nature of the work in the parking lot is intricate. It's probably something that our internal forces could not have done. And I assume this contractor probably knows that. There's certain, communications things that they have to go through when they're dealing with an elderly community like that and folks that are on site while they're doing the work. And then I think there were just some cost differentials that were noted to me based off our estimates for materials that it appears to me the contractor is saying would be much higher. Again, I'm not going to get into a dispute with the contractor over this particular procurement. I do have some concerns because I'm tending to see this as if the standard is just becoming that much higher for work that I don't see. I mean, I don't see why, if we had more people at the table responding, that the cost would necessarily be elevating the way they are. So I just want to talk with you all about some of our, methods of procurement, and Ms. Wright and I will at the right time do that to make sure that we're putting out bids, particularly with some of them that are about to come before you that are in the millions and millions of dollars, to make sure that we have all the right opportunity for people to bid. And it may not be that it's in that local preference area, to expand that depending on what the project is to ensure that we have enough participation.
Any other questions? Mr. McDowell?
Let me just, let me ask you a question. The initial bid was how much? 100?
That was the estimate. The estimate was 136.
Come forward to help with the specifics if you have questions. And again, I'm certainly not trying to hold up the procurement of this item, the approval of it, but I did tell them that I was going to raise the concerns that I have about it.
Well, it seems to me that even if it was budgeted at $130,000, we're at $217,000 now. That's 100% over what was normally there. I need to talk to me a little bit about where those costs are and why such an increase.
This, this is a paving project, also a water line repair project. This is a result of a water line break. So the budget, the monies for this particular project would come from our unforeseen dollars that we budget every year. The original estimate was $136,000, and it came in, the low bid was, we had 2 bids after we bid this project twice, because the first time we bid it, we did not get a bid. So we had to put it back out to bid, and we had 2 bidders. The low was $217,360. Our estimates are based on previous similar projects, so we keep a database of this type of work. So when we put together an estimate, we try to estimate using previous bids. So that's how we estimate our projects for this type of work. So in this particular case, because of the nature of the project, where it's located, it's not a large project. The amount of work that's going on, we feel like that's why the numbers came in the way they did. And normally when we have small paving projects, we like to group them together and put them out as a package. But this particular case, it's a retirement community, and we have an upset customer that we're trying to satisfy and get this project completed now rather than grouping it with another project to put it back out. So we went through our normal process in bidding this. It was advertised. It went online through our bid online program, and unfortunately the bids came in higher than we expected.
Mr. Bador? I'm sorry, McDowell.
Ms. Wilson, let me ask you a question, please. Let me make sure I understand. What's the staff's position on this?
The staff's position is that we should move forward with approval, and while I have some, I guess, concerns because I'm seeing this a little bit more frequently than what I would like, and it's not anything against the staff's recommendation. I just felt like, because originally the request was for me to go ahead and approve this because of the urgency to the community, the retirement community, and have you all ratify it, which I didn't agree to do that, because I wanted to have the opportunity for you to bring to your attention that I am seeing this trend. I do think that the staff has made a good attempt at trying to bid the project, and this is just where we are. But I just wanted to reserve the right to address this with you all with some recommendations regarding procurements if we continue to see this trend.
I'll be through after this.
Yes, sir.
Can the job be done for lesser money?
I've asked the staff those questions. I don't think, as Joey said, it's a project that can wait until it could be bid as a package with other projects. I don't think that they feel that, internally, the paving job, because we do paving sometimes, I don't think this is a job that they feel our staff could accomplish.
Mr. Bador?
I want to say thank you, Teresa, for pointing this out for us. To be honest with you, we're, we take this agenda when it comes to staff recommendation into maintenance or paving or anything like that as a normal city routine, maintenance and update the roads and everything else. But when there's almost $90,000 difference between what we budgeted for and when I hear you're having a little hesitation whether you move forward or not, I mean, $85,000 could fix a lot of potholes all over the city rather than just one little bit section of the road. So I will be hesitant to move forward with this until you get some more bids maybe, or maybe find out way where we can save money, because $85,000 above your budgeted cost is a lot of money.
And it wasn't a budgeted item, so I do understand it because it was a water line break, so it comes out of, the unforeseen projects. But at the same time, if we continue to have these, it adds up. And so I just wanted to.
I'm just, and the more I think about it, the more down the road it'll be an opening for other companies to come in with higher numbers and kind of forces us in that corner. I don't want to go there. So I'd like to make a motion to deny this request.
Hold on, we're still in discussion period. Mr. Duval and then Mr. Davis?
The motion did not get a second.
Not yet.
Second.
Well, Sam's now seconded.
We're not gonna vote, yeah, we're gonna get discussion still or no?
Yeah, we're still in discussion.
Go ahead. Let me say I applaud the city manager being fiscally conservative and bringing this to our attention. This is Wildwood Downs Retirement Village. This is not a road. This is a water main. Our water main broke in their property and is a hazard for in their parking area. The executive director out there called me, and I referred it to the city manager and Mr. Gentry and their staff. I think we have some responsibility to take care of a hazard that's been there for a number of weeks, waiting for 2 bids to come in and get this hazard out of the way. I don't think the city manager is suggesting that we not do this project. She's just raising the question that these projects are becoming more expensive for various reasons. But this is a project that is on private property in an area that is populated by senior citizens, that has a lot of visitors, and it's our water main that broke. We need to take care of the problem. I also lament that we're 80 or 90,000 over budget, but I think we have to take that hit and fix this this break, and patch the area on their private property.
Mr. Davis?
Just raise another question for me. First, our line is on private property. How does that happen?
It's within easement. It's
It's a water line.
It's a water line.
It's on private property, or is it within the city's easement?
It's within the city's easement, within the community. So and just to explain, it was a water line break. In this community, we've had several breaks. So it's not an issue we take lightly, and we would prefer to have repaired it. We've repaired the water line, but we would have preferred to repair the pavement at the same time. But because of the extent of the pavement, we could not do it in-house, so we've had to put it out to bid. We went through our process in doing that, and it took two rounds of bidding to be able to get 2 bids. And this water line break happened in early August, so as you can imagine, we get complaints a lot about not repairing our water line breaks in a timely fashion. So we're doing what we can, but we're in a position that we could put this back out to bid. We may get lower bids. I can't promise that. But we are working with procurement for future to do an IDC for this type of work, so we can, one, have possibly a more fair number, but 2, to do it in a more timely fashion, which is something we all desire to do, is to fix these water line breaks in a more timely fashion. So, staff's recommendation is to move forward with this, even though the numbers did come in higher, and moving forward, we will do our best to make sure we get more bids, but also make sure we get better numbers.
Well, I only have reason to pause because I think if folks have been paying attention, I occasionally look at these kinds of numbers and also, who's doing the work, where they're coming from, and that sort of thing. If there's ever a way where we can have that kind of a savings, I think it would be worth not approving and try to get a better number. I was in a meeting last night and I got chewed out for sidewalks. 80,000 is a good hit and miss for some sidewalks. Where we can get those kinds of savings, I think we ought to make the call to do that. And I know that we're not the only municipality that may have challenges with infrastructure. The state can't meet their obligations. But I think where we can, and there's some savings, we ought to bite the bullet and do that. And that's what I would expect from the city manager's office. If there's reason to, that causes a second look, we ought to do that. Yes. We really ought to do that.
And I think, and I'll get back to Reverend McDowell, but, and I would just say I echo Mr. Duvall's concerns. I think that and I commend the city manager for raising this as an issue. I think her point is that she's raising it because this is a trend that she's seeing, and based on what she said, I believe she's going to be coming back to us with some potential recommendations moving forward for other projects. But I do think that, you know, here, considering that we did send it out, didn't get any bids, now send it out, it is above our estimate, and I think that that is cause for concern, but estimates are estimates. So I think that we have an obligation to the people who live in this community to make sure that this hazard is taken care of as soon as possible. So I would be in support of moving forward on this, but I really would like for us sooner rather than later to have that conversation with the city manager and staff regarding recommendations and where do we go, if it's breaking up projects, if it's handling something a little bit differently. We certainly, I think we started the whole local preference in an attempt to make sure that our residents were having an opportunity to do work because people were coming in from the outside doing work here. But we certainly didn't put that exception in here so that people were able to charge us more than, you know, is reasonable. So I think that we need to take a look at that and see how we might tweak that. Reverend McDowell?
I'm all for it, but I'm also for saving some money. And I guess with that in mind, I'd simply like to offer this motion that we move deference of this project until a third bid is acquired, and after that, taking action.
Okay, so we have one motion on the floor. So are you offering a substitute motion?
I'll withdraw my motion
withdraw your motion.
to give him the floor, and I'll second his motion.
Okay. So we have a motion to defer this. Well, it's really not deferral if we're going to send it out to rebid. It would really be Mo's motion to withdraw. I mean, it would be Mo's motion to deny it unless staff wants to hold it and then rebid. Is that proper?
I think you have the same result. I mean, either way, we have to put it back out for bid.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Instead, the intent of my motion, of course, is to go forward, but to go forward with some intent. And the intent, of course, is to raise and to receive, say, another bid on the project as soon and as quick as possible.
So your motion wouldn't be maybe to defer, but your motion is that we rebid this project.
Yeah, we can do that.
And then Mr. Bedore has seconded that motion. Okay.
I move to table the motion.
All right. Mr. Duvall has moved to table the motion. Is there a
If I-
second?
And it may have some bearing on your decision, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, if our procurement director could offer some advice.
Sandra? We do. We have a motion, but this will be part of the discussion. Sandra, you have additional information that?
Yes, I would like for you all to consider that we don't have negotiations currently as part of our procurement code. The ability to negotiate contracts on bids, we have that for RFPs and RFQs. We don't have it on bids. I would like to get special approval that maybe that would be a solution for this, is to negotiate with the lowest offerer to see if they would be willing to negotiate a lower price.
We don't do that now?
We don't have that as part of our code.
She doesn't have the.
We don't have the authority, but I
Well,
would
that
like
would have
to.
been a recommendation that could come to council a long time ago, because that's one of the things I know that goes through my mind. Do we negotiate, or do we just go that way because that's the number that we're comfortable with? I don't have a problem with that, and I think that ought to be in writing. Where's this community?
Wildwood Downs, is that off of
It's off of
Percival
Polo Road.
Polo Road, yeah, that's, yeah.
I think, anyway, I agree with your position. Doesn't have anything necessarily to do with staff, but I think that's, given, what we try to get done in other areas,
Can we give
It's
her
always
that,
a factor,
Okay, so
so.
can we give her that permission?
Okay, so we have a motion to table that did not get a second. We have a motion to go out for bids. Mr. McDowell, would you reword your motion to give staff the authority to negotiate with the lowest bidder in this?
Let's table that motion and just get a new motion.
Well, Howard, there was no second to the table
Second
motion.
to the table.
Did you second that? Did she second that?
Not yet, no, I was
Can I
going
move?
to, but I
Can I
didn't,
move
so you can go ahead.
All right, so move then. So move that we enter into a bidding process, hopefully where the bids are, and I want to say this very carefully, substantially lower. And
Allow the staff.
And Mo, you second, you accept that amendment?
yes,
Okay, so it's been properly moved and seconded. Erica, so that there's no confusion, will you please read us the motion?
Motion to authorize staff to enter into a negotiation process for this project.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none? Oh, sorry, Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval.
In order to let the Madam Clerk get it into the minutes correctly, should we table the original motion and then allow that motion to be the second?
but we didn't get a second, we didn't
Didn't
get a second on the table.
Didn't you
No, we,
second it?
no, that one was seconded by Mo, but he's saying, should we, but he made the original motion. He can amend his motion, Teresa, right?
He amends your motion and you
He
get the
amended his own
same.
motion, and Mo accepted that amendment.
The table died.
Yeah, the table died.
But that's
We
not
did
what Howard is asking. Howard is saying, should we table
Should
that
we table
motion
the
and have a
original
new
motion
motion?
and then let you put a clean?
Okay, restate it? You wanted to restate it?
I withdraw my motion.
No, I'm just asking for
Ed?
clarification from Teresa. If y'all hold 1 second. Teresa, can you please?
So the motion to deny was seconded.
Yes,
You made a motion to table, which wasn't seconded.
correct. And then he came back and he restated or amended his own motion to first ask that staff be able to go out for another bid, and that was again seconded. And then he changed it after we got additional information from Sandra saying that he wanted to rebid it. So what Howard is saying is because of all of these motions changing, should we table all those motions and start over with a new motion?
You table all that is before us and start afresh.
It would be clearer for everyone. I
Okay,
think, if y'all would
so Howard, do you have a motion?
I move that we table the previous motion and clear the deck so that Reverend McDowell can put a clean motion on the table.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, that's been properly moved and seconded. If the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Badura? Mr. Vine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
All right. Okay, now is there a new motion?
Mr. McDowell.
I forgot it.
I'll make the
I
motion.
believe Ms.
I move that. Hey, gee whiz, everybody have some levity sometime. I move then that the staff rebid the project, renegotiate.
Negotiate.
Y'all help me. Renegotiate the project, and that at the appropriate time you bring it back before council for approval.
Second.
For the sake of time, not to belabor, but if in fact we are able to successfully negotiate the price down, would council consider allowing me to move forward based off my approval so that we can get this done more expeditiously?
I'll add that as an amendment. Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am.
sir.
Okay,
Second.
there was a motion properly moved and seconded. Discussion, seeing none. If the clerk would call the roll.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Badura?
Aye.
Mr. Vine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
And I really do want to thank council. I did not mean to belabor your evening, but I do thank you. I think it's important, and to the point you made, Mr. Davis, about some of these policy changes, that was what I was getting at.
Yeah,
So,
I think it gives you and staff some leverage to, you know, take a look at all this. And, you know, we may be behind in some of our stated policies anyway, and processes as well.
I
At
would
this
say my
time-
colleagues challenged me as my first meeting presiding as Mayor Pro Tem to get us out of here by 7. And if we would note for the record that I probably would be able to do that had we not had that lengthy conversation. So,
My apologies, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
We can always make a motion to adjourn.
so if we would move forward with presentations, and Ms. Wilson, if we will, because if y'all would indulge me for a second, I know Ms. Page has to go to another council meeting to be there by 7 for the same proclamation, so I would ask if we could move 46 to the first presentation, the End Child Hunger Week proclamation.
Absolutely. Item 46, End Child Hunger Week Proclamation, the Honorable Tamika Isaac Devine.
All right, and while I'm bringing this up, if Ms. Page would come up and, it's right here, but is indeed our honor, and I will say in the absence of the mayor, who is out of town on city business, but he definitely wanted to make sure we recognize this. Whereas 1 in 5 children in South Carolina live in families where their full food needs are not met, and whereas it is fitting and proper that our community at large, local and state government officials, state agencies, stakeholders from nonprofits, community-based organizations, schools, and the faith-based community unite to reduce the number of youth facing hunger in our schools, neighborhoods, and city. And whereas it is fitting and proper to bring awareness to local, state, and national efforts led by the United States Department of Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack to end childhood hunger. And whereas these efforts will lead to a better quality of life for the youth of today and the youth of the future living in Columbia, South Carolina. Now, therefore, on behalf of our Mayor, Stephen K. Benjamin, Mayor of the City of Columbia, along with all members of Columbia City Council, we do hereby proclaim October 24th through 31st, 2016 to be End Child Hunger Week in the City of Columbia, and we urge all of our citizens to recognize and participate in its observance. While Ashley's coming up, just to briefly tell us what they have planned for End Childhood Hunger Week, I also wanted to say, I know Lauren sent us all an email today. Under the mayor's leadership, this council unanimously approved money for Meals on Wheels to go to our seniors. So we'll be recognizing that and presenting that check in the next couple weeks. But certainly between our partnership with the USDA and Richland One and our parks, we've been trying to make sure that our children are provided for as well. And we want to thank Ashley and all the work that they've been doing, and hope to continue to work with you to make sure that no child in the city of Columbia is hungry.
Thank y'all so very much. Oh, right. I typically have a pretty loud speaking voice. So I don't...
We still need it.
Oh, okay, for the stream. I'm just gonna put it right here. But definitely, I appreciate you all granting the week. Good to see some of you all who I know again, so good to see you all. I definitely want to highlight a few events. So for you all in front of me, also to the folks behind me, I don't like talking behind people, so please excuse me. But I definitely want to invite you to some key events. One, we work closely with Richland School District 1, one of our strong partners, and we will be doing some tours of various after-school programs. And we'll be going to W.A. Perry Middle School. We'll be going there on Wednesday, the 26th at 3 p.m. So we would love for you all to join us, see their meal service, see some 21st century enrichment that these middle school youth will have. And also on Thursday night, solicit that you all join us at 6 p.m. at Richland Library. We have something called Family Champion Leaders, parents who them and their children have both faced food insecurity, but they are working hard trying to make sure their voices are heard and that change can happen. So we're having a photo voice exhibit. So basically, folks are taking pictures, and these pictures are of two things. One, barriers that families face on a daily basis that hinders them from getting the food that they need. But secondly, a positive light, ways that they've overcome food insecurity through various means. So definitely solicit that you all join us for those various events. You all have the calendar. You're welcome to come to anything. For you all on council, for those of you behind me. So thank you all for granting us this proclamation, and we look forward to working with you all to help end child hunger in the city of Columbia.
And I did want to point out one other, Reverend McDowell, in your district on Wednesday, October 26th, they'll be at the Belfield Center for Food Share Columbia between 11 and 12:15. That has been a phenomenal partnership between the City of Columbia and USC to do Food Share Columbia, where we've been able to really provide fresh produce in a food desert in the City of Columbia. And so as we looked at how do we expand that program, I'm glad that y'all are highlighting that, and that's one of the stops for the week.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley.
Okay. Ms. Wilson?
Like to go back to item 44?
Yes, please.
Okay. Item 44, Business Spotlight Honoree Recognition and Proclamation, Spotted Salamander Cafe and Catering, to be presented by Mr. Angelo McBride, Administrator of the Office of Business Opportunities.
Good evening, Mayor, Pro Tem, Council, and City Manager. Tonight, we're gladly presenting the Spotted Salamander Cafe Catering is our business spotlight for the quarter. Jake Wendell is here today. Jessica Shalato is not. They're the two owners of Spotted Salamander Cafe. They're located at 1531 Richardson Street, and I must say that this is a unique gem that I discovered through the help of Missy Gentry. What great eats that we have in the City of Columbia. This is an awesome business that we thought that would be awesome to present to you tonight for our business spotlight. They were established in July the 27th, 2011. They're known for unique customer experience, creating individualized cater menus using the freshest local ingredients in Columbia, which are helping other small businesses in Columbia as well. Spotted Salamander Cafe has been one of Columbia's go-to community restaurant for 6 years with an ever-changing daily eye-catching menu. And that's one of the things that as I keep going there just to look at the business and how they are doing, they do have ever-changing menus. So nothing's the same all the time, so you can enjoy different flavors and different type menus. By the way, on October 27th, they'll open their doors up to the City of Columbia to let all of our city employees enjoy what they present on their menu on October 27th for lunch. And we'd like to thank them for that as well. So we want to play a 1-minute video, and then we will follow by the chamber. They also have a little presentation, and then we will follow by Jake Winneland to come forward. The video, please.
Is Jessica Shalato. I started Spotted Salamander with a friend of mine named Brad Weeks about 8 years ago, just as a catering company. And as our catering company grew and time passed, we decided to open up a cafe. I cook a lot of ways my grandmother cooked first. Everything we use is made here. Everything's fresh. We use a lot of local ingredients. We try to do the farm-to-table thing, but still keep it within people's budgets. We are open from 11 to 2:30, Monday through Friday for lunch. And then for dinner, we are open Tuesday through Saturday, 5 to 9:30. The thing I want people to get out of Spotted Salamander is a full, happy belly. Oh, thank you guys so much for nominating me and voting for me. I really appreciate it.
Tem. This is my first time seeing you in action. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And it's good to see you. The best is yet to come, right? I am indeed honored to come and be a part of the city's recognition of a business that's doing very well. Each time we do one of these spotlight recognitions, it stimulates the economy, believe it or not, and it creates a little bit of jealousy in the community because the rest of the businesses in the area, they'll be trying to figure out, how did you get this? What did you do? Well, it happened because they're just good business people. And we are excited to be a part of this. And on behalf of Carl Blackstone, President and CEO of the Chamber, and the Board of Directors, I am indeed honored to present the Spotlight Award. It says the Columbia Chamber, in partnership with the City of Columbia, is pleased to recognize Spotted Salamander Cafe as a Business Spotlight recipient on Tuesday, October 18, 2016. And I will present to you now, as a result of you getting this, you will get a free membership in the chamber for 1 year, and you will be able to come to board meetings and tell other business people about what you do. Okay? All right.
On behalf of my wife, I do want to thank you all, and I hope you come try us out, lunch or dinner. I think it's pretty good food.
Can I
like it, as you can tell, I eat a lot. Just kidding, I don't.
Can I say
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Certainly.
From a restaurateur to another, 8 years in business is not an easy cake. During my day job, where I teach students how to be a restaurant manager, how hard it is to be a restaurant manager. So when you really accomplish and achieve 8 years worth of restaurant business or restaurant operations, you've done it the right way, right? So congratulations, because there's not that many restaurants can make it for 8 years and beyond. So for that reason, thank you, and I appreciate everything you do, and congratulations for this award.
Thank you very much. That means a lot coming from you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
If you join me over here. Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem,
If you
may I indulge you for 1 second, please?
Sure, and I would say if you send us an email, remind us on that day, the 26th, 27th?
Yes, ma'am.
27th, so that we all can remember that.
Yes. I just want to highlight, we put on your desk a brochure that's entitled Navigating Through Regulatory Requirements. A few months ago, staff, several departments, Development Services, Zoning, Building Inspection, Fire Department, Utility Engineering, Business License, Planning and Development Services, along with some state agencies, we all got together to sort of look at how do we make the journey for starting a business in Columbia a little easier. And with that, what we done was we had a panel discussion at Earlwood, and about 60 new startup businesses was there. And each one of our departments facilitated a bunch of questions to help our entrepreneurs think about navigating through the regulatory requirement. First step, second step, how do we get through the channels of getting started as a small business? And as a result of that, we came up with a simple guide, if you will, and I think is where we can look at staff and say thank you for coming together to try to make things a lot easier. We thought this would be something that we can share with our new startups here in Columbia. And so take a look at that, and if you've got any comments with it, let us know. I think we're on the right road to making life a lot easier for our small businesses to get started here in Columbia. Thank you all.
Angela, is this on the website?
We will upload this. This is fresh off the press, and so we are pleased to be able to work with. Again, this is a local City of Columbia as well as a state action to make sure we can actually work together with our new startups. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
This is a great outline into starting a business. Are you doing a lot more detailed description under each step, or are you just pointing out the steps? Because I think that would be helpful if you're going to put that on the internet.
Yes, as we continue to learn from what the businesses are telling us, and what we keep saying is, plan ahead. And what we're getting when the people walk in, it gets compensated when they got to look through all of this. But if they plan ahead to do a little bit of research on our website, because all the information is there, just volumes, but being available to be able to ask certain questions. And so this is, we think, is a sort of simple way to get them comfortable and move through the process and getting started.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Angelo, thank you. Very pleased to see that publication. Ms. Devine, speaking of another publication that's somewhat hot off the press as well, I'd asked Missy Kaufman to come forward, who's acted as our flood recovery liaison with our consultant. And I know we've all recognized the anniversary of the historic flood of 2015 within the last few weeks, but we didn't have an opportunity to share our annual report of the Road to Recovery for the City of Columbia. So Missy's gonna hand these to you all as well this evening.
Thank you.
Our next item is National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day Proclamation, the Honorable Tamika Isaac Devine.
Excuse me. As most of you in here know, my husband and our lives were touched 2 years ago with the loss of our precious James Henry, who was stillborn, at 37 and a half weeks of pregnancy. And I always tell people that I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and even through pain, you find good things and you find your purpose. And I will tell you that through the loss of our child, we found an opportunity to really be a voice and join with other very strong families that are a voice to sometimes the voiceless. A lot of times, when you, and I saw this somewhere over the weekend for Remembrance Day, but, when you lose, a parent, they call you an orphan. If you lose a spouse, they call you a widow. When you lose a child, there is no name for it. And a lot of times when you lose a child during pregnancy, people don't think about that child because that child was not here on earth. And so through our journey, we were able to meet some really great people. And so through this, over the last 2 years, the mayor and my colleagues have allowed me to make sure that every year we recognize Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month and Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day here in the City of Columbia. And I think that the more we're able to talk about this, the more it allows other people to own their pain and recognize that they're not alone. And so with that, somebody who's been with me since day one of the journey is Christy Bother. She is the founder of Naomi's Circle, and I would like Christy to come forward and bring some remarks, and then I have a proclamation to present.
Thank you all. And don't know if I should address you as Mayor Pro Tem Devine or just my good friend Tamika. But thank you and to the other city council members for this proclamation. I believe it's our third in the last 3 years. And as I was preparing what to share with you all, I was reminded that this time last year, we were still reeling from the 1,000-year flood, as we've just been reminded, and the aftermath from which many people are still recovering. And this time 2 weeks ago, we were preparing our city for the possibility of Hurricane Matthew hitting, not knowing what kind of destruction that would bring. This time, our immediate community was spared the worst of that storm, and life has resumed. People went back to school, back to work, and if it were not for the reminders from the governor, from the media, and from members of our own community who are helping with the relief efforts, it would be easy to forget that others in our state will be recovering for a long time to come. I think one of the greatest fears of parents who have lost a baby in pregnancy or infancy is that others will forget. We fear that after the initial time of loss, others will forget that we are still hurting and will be recovering for a long time to come. We fear also that our child will be forgotten. We even fear that we will forget as the years distance us more and more from the last memories that we shared. And we find it harder to remember the details of that special but heartbreaking time in our lives. We fear that as we move forward with life and maybe even welcome new children into our families, that our precious children in heaven will be left behind. And then a moment comes when the memories come flooding back and you know that you'll never really forget. When others remember our children with us, that's when our hearts soar. In those moments, we know that our child is not forgotten and will never be forgotten. And we are reminded that our children have changed the world because they've changed us and they've changed the people around us. So this proclamation is not just symbolic, and I want to really thank you for that, because it is a yearly reminder and a yearly demonstration that you, our community leaders, have not forgotten our children or the families touched by this kind of loss, and that you want others to remember too. And it warms our hearts as parents, and as Tamika said, is also a step towards making pregnancy loss less difficult to talk about. And when we can talk about it, then we can find healing and we can find even joy again. We've brought a bouquet of yellow roses with us. This is a symbol we use in Naomi's Circle in memory of our children. And I also have some brochures about Naomi's Circle that I'd like to give you before I leave. But I invite you to take one of these home or more. If you know somebody who's had a loss, no matter how long ago it was, take a rose to give to them. Take as many as you want, as a visual reminder of the families that this proclamation is touching. And I thank you again for making a difference that is more than symbolic, and for remembering the children that we will never forget. Naomi's Circle is a support group, one of many in our area, but our website has information about all the different support resources in Columbia. So I hope that you'll go to that and see more about that, and see more about the resources that our community offers. So my husband has got the brochures also that we can give you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Christy. And if you all will indulge me, I would like to read the proclamation. It just says, whereas Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day is a day of remembrance of pregnancy loss and infant deaths, which includes but is not limited to miscarriage, stillbirth, SIDS, or death of a newborn. And whereas over 23,000 infants died in the United States in 2013, and South Carolina's infant mortality rate dropped remarkably, whereas nearly 1 in 4 women have experienced the loss of a baby in pregnancy, and whereas the loss of a baby remains a sad reality for many families and takes a serious toll on the health and well-being of families, as well as our community and the nation as a whole. And whereas even the shortest lives are still valuable, and the grief of those who mourn the loss of these lives should not be trivialized. And whereas recognition of Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day will enable the citizens of Columbia to consider how they can meet the needs of bereaved mothers, fathers, and family members, and work to prevent the causes of these deaths. And whereas the City of Columbia appreciates the hard work of groups such as Naomi's Circle that help parents who have experienced the loss of a baby in pregnancy or infancy. Now, therefore, on behalf of our Mayor, Stephen K. Benjamin, and all members of Columbia City Council, we do hereby proclaim today, October 18th, 2016, as National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day in the City of Columbia, and we urge all of our citizens to recognize and participate in its observance. And Christy, if you would come join me up here.
Ms. Devine, if you would please present another proclamation that I know is very dear to your heart, the Domestic Violence Awareness Month proclamation.
And this one, yes, it is. I share on my Facebook page 3 ribbons, because October, most people know that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. A little bit less, but a lot of people know it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Many people don't know it's Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, so I have all 3 ribbons on my Facebook page just showing the significance of this month and how many people, are affected by all 3 of these. And so with that, the City of Columbia has really enjoyed a tremendous partnership with Sister Care for many, many years. And more years than that, we've had a stalwart in our community, Nancy Barton, who has worked so hard and diligently to combat domestic violence in our area, as well as to provide a safe haven for women and families who are affected by domestic violence. In previous years, the state of South Carolina has ranked #1 in the nation for men who kill women. We have this year been named by the Violence Policy Center as #5 in the nation, which some people look at, I guess, a small victory. But I will tell you that even with small victories, you realize how much more work you have to do. And so 10 years ago, we started the Mayor's Walk Against Domestic Violence, and that is an opportunity, again, just as I talked about with Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, an opportunity to bring awareness to something that a lot of people don't like to talk about. And I will say that we have grown our numbers over the last several years to get more people involved in taking steps against domestic violence. But we could not have done it without the partnership and work and dedication of Sister Care. And so at this time, I would like Nancy Barton to come forward to accept the proclamation proclaiming October 2016 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Columbia. And before I present it to her, I'm going to allow Nancy. Nancy is always a person of very little words, and I always put her on the spot, but I can't let it go without at least giving her an opportunity to say something if she'd like.
Thank you, Tamika. You are dear, but I am aware of your 7 o'clock deadline, right, that we've talked about, and we're a bit remiss. Yes. But I do appreciate the long-term partnership, and then with some of the members of Council, and of course Mayor Benjamin was a Sister Care board member years ago, so I appreciate the partnership, but the years of support, and we really have to have the awareness, and we've got to have lots of voices, I think, rather than just a Sister Care or a nonprofit or the City of Columbia, us working together to try to raise awareness in an effort to break some of the stigma, embarrassment, shame, so that we are able to help more survivors, but also always to think about that intergenerational cycle of domestic violence that we certainly want to break too. So the more word we can get out, the more times you offer this proclamation, I'm glad to be here. So thank you, Tamika, and members of Council.
Great. And yes. And in addition to presenting this proclamation to Nancy, I wanted to also, every year we try and look for more ways to expand the partnership and get more people involved. And so, with this being the 10th anniversary of the Mayor's Walk, we wanted to do something a little extra special. We do have, and I'll talk in a minute about our walk and our run, but we also have been very pleased that we have had another partner join us. And that is Staples Corporation. Staples has joined us as a Purple Partner for this year's initiatives, and they have been a great help with getting the word out for our event, as well as even hosting a toiletry drive for Sister Care to provide resources to people in need. So tonight we have Ms. Felicia McCall, and we also have Rita Halverson from Staples, and they are here to present the items that they've collected at their Financial Shared Services Center. And this is just a small representation of what they've collected to date, but we wanted to make sure that Nancy saw that. And they have a larger volume that they will continue to receive additional items through the month of October and will continue to partner with us. And so I wanted to thank Staples, and let's make the presentation. And then after we make the presentation, I'd like Staples to make remarks if they like.
know what those boxes were over there.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having us, and we're so excited about supporting this initiative. The Shared Service Center, Alicia McCall, my colleague, and I, we came out here because this is our first year actually doing this initiative. So, with that being said, we actually have obtained 4 initiatives that we're actually going to be supporting for domestic violence. So again, we're doing the toiletry and cell phone drive, and of course, each of our supervisors have come together with their teams, as you can tell. They're actually doing a team event. So it's actually a great event that we're doing, and more is coming in, and we've dedicated the month of October for domestic violence awareness. We're also partnering with the City of Columbia for a community charity kickball event. We're going to have this at Earlwood Park, and it's going to be on November 12th. We've also are conducting on-site info sessions. We partnered up with the CPD and Richland County Sister Care and Women's Shelter. So it's more awareness that we're providing for you. And then lastly, we're doing self-defense classes with Richland County, which is going to be on November 2nd and 3rd. So again, we're here to support, we're here to be here for you, and Staples, that's what we're here for. So thank you for having us.
Thank you so very much. So I just wanted to remind everybody that due to Hurricane Matthew, we did have to move the walk. And so the walk is now going to be on October 29th, which is the last Saturday of the month. It will be at Spirit Communications Park. And this year, again, 10th year, we had to do things a little bit different. This year we have included a grand marshal for our walk. And when we were thinking about who we wanted as grand marshal, it was only right for us to choose Elizabeth Gray. Elizabeth lives right here in Columbia. She is a domestic violence survivor, and she runs marathons all across the country to take steps to help end domestic violence. Her powerful story has been used to educate up to 19,000 police officers annually, as well as she was appointed to the Domestic Violence Task Force by Governor Nikki Haley. She's also one of our ambassadors this year for the Mayor's Walk, and she recently became a top 10 finalist for Runner's World Cover Search Contest, and her story will be read in the December issue of Runner's World. Her ultimate goal is to bring awareness on domestic violence by running a marathon in all 50 states. And Elizabeth, how far are you now? How many? Right, so she's halfway there. But anyway, I would like to ask Elizabeth to share a few words, and Elizabeth is this year's Grand Marshal for the Mayor's Walk Against Domestic Violence.
Yes, thank you all so much for having me, and I especially want to thank Nancy Bart. I didn't know that she was going to be here tonight, so that's an extra special treat for me. But I tell everyone, I would not be here where I'm at today in this awesome life that I have if it wasn't for Sister Care. They helped me during a time that I felt completely alone. And I was confused and scared and embarrassed that I was allowing my husband to mistreat me for the 3 years that I was married to him. Thank God it was only 3 years. But I would not be where I'm at today if it wasn't for them. And thank you so much, Nancy. I can't thank them enough. I will help support them until the last breath I take on this earth. It's a huge honor. It's been a huge year for me to be recognized, just not by our city, but nationally. To think that I'm going to be in a national magazine that's going to hit newsstands on November 15th. What? Just because I took the courage, or I had the courage to take that first step to not only leave my abusive marriage, but to also take that first step into running my first marathon. Y'all know what a marathon is, right? 26.2 miles. I'm 43 years old and I'm in the best shape of my life. But not just physically, emotionally too, mentally. I'm right where I need to be in this life to help others. I don't know why God has put me here to be recognized so much over the past few years. Sister Care nominated me one of the Women of the Year for 2014, the Governor's Task Force last year, now Runner's World magazine this year, and now with this to be your Grand Marshal. I think this is probably one of my biggest rewards because it's right here. This is the community that I've helped. This is the community that's helped me, and it's my way of giving back. I'm one little voice, but it's crazy to think that my little voice can do so much. Just recently, I was able to lobby for the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence up in DC just a few years ago. Who would have imagined in a million years that I would have been doing that? All because of Sister Care. And I will say that again and again and again and again and again. What an awesome service that they have to provide us. I just wish there were more Sister Cares, around our state, because there's a lot of places in this state that don't have the services and care that they need. And we should be forever grateful that we have them. That's all. But thank you so much for your time today and recognize me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate it. And again, the walk is October 29th, and we still have sign up. The walk is free, and we still have sign up, so anybody can contact our public relations department and join us as we walk to take steps against domestic violence. But thank you, ladies. Thank you so much all for being here. Ms. Wilson?
Thank you, Ms. Devine. At this time, we will move to ordinances first reading. Item 49, ordinance number 2016-067, amending ordinance number 2016-029, granting an encroachment to the Knights of Columbus for installation and maintenance of brick pavers and sod within the right-of-way area of the 1600 block of Marion Street adjacent to its building at 1623 Marion Street.
Move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell? Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Badura?
Aye.
Ms. Devine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
And that ordinance was just simply a name change, the grantee's name. Item 50, ordinance number 2016-094, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract of sale between the City of Columbia and Jarvay Javon Jackson for the property known as 5301 Holmes Avenue.
Move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell? Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Badura?
Aye.
Ms. Devine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Item 51, moving into resolutions, resolution number R 2016-039, authorizing the city manager to execute a sublease agreement between the City of Columbia and the Boys and Girls Club of the Midlands, Inc. for the Norman Arnold Center at 1100 South Holly Street.
Second.
Second, okay. It's been moved and properly seconded. If the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell? Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Badura?
Aye.
Ms. Devine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Item 52, resolution number R 2016-050, a resolution approving and ratifying mutual aid agreements between the City of Columbia and the City of Columbia Police Department and various law enforcement agencies, and authorizing the city manager of the City of Columbia and the chief of police of the City of Columbia to execute all such agreements.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. If the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell? Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Badura?
Aye.
Ms. Devine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Item 53, resolution number R 2016-071, authorizing acceptance and dedication of streets known as East Fair Drive, a portion thereof, Rothland Court and Vendu Court in East Fair, Phase 2A, to the City of Columbia.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. If the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Mr. Badura. Ms. Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Item 54, resolution number R 2016-072, release and abandonment of the city's existing 25-foot utility easement along a portion of Richland County near the Killian Road tank site.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. If the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Mr. Badura.
Aye.
Ms. Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Item 55, resolution number R 2016-074, adopting amendment to City of Columbia response to resistance policy.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. If the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Mr. Badura.
Aye.
Ms. Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Resolution number R 2016-075, authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement and operation and maintenance agreement between the City of Columbia and South Carolina Electric and Gas Company for the Saluda River Walk, Three Rivers Greenway project.
Move
moved.
approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded. If the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell. Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Mr. Badura.
Aye.
Ms. Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis. Mayor Benjamin.
Under other matters, Ms. Gentry, our Assistant City Manager for Operations, will present our stormwater bond and priority projects final recommendations. I know we have been before you multiple times, so we hope that we can work through some final recommendations this evening. We'll try to do that quickly, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
You got 10 minutes.
I originally told them 8, but they challenged me for 7,
Oh,
so
okay.
I was actually right.
I know you were up to the challenge, Mayor Pro Tem.
And this should go relatively quick. This is very similar to the presentation I gave a few weeks ago. So we just wanted to bring back the stormwater priority list and talk about the rate study again real quick. You have a copy of this presentation in front of you as well. So tonight we'll talk about prioritization, currently funded projects, proposed projects, and the rate study overview. Wanted to start with the prioritization list. Again, we go from the highest priority of danger to human life to the lowest priority, which is minor yard and lot flooding. This list is something you're all familiar with, so I'm not going to read every item, but this is really how we rank all of our projects. And other considerations, we do look at low-impact development. I know that was asked last meeting, so we are certainly applying those techniques whenever feasible. We also, as you all know, have to get a lot of permits for our stormwater projects, so the time frame involved with getting Army Corps of Engineers permits can range drastically based on what we're doing, so that's a factor we'll consider, as well as easement acquisition. Typically, if people are having flooding problems, drainage easements are usually easier to get than some other easements, but still, we do have to factor in that timeline. And then we will be bringing forward in the next month or so a Rain Barrel Initiative program, so we wanted to point that out to you. And we do seek additional grant funding whenever possible, and we've listed some of those opportunities that we're seeking currently. So again, we wanted to highlight some of the projects already funded so that if you look at the list of proposed projects for a bond, you don't get scared because you're not seeing something that you think should be on there. So this list goes over what's already funded using the city's stormwater utility. The next list, we have, you'll remember from the previous meeting, we brought a list of projects that were not prioritized, but that had been identified and needed to be accomplished. We have now separated those into tiers. So as we proceed with a rate study, we will be identifying which projects would be the first to be approved through a bond, and then so forth through the different tiers. So tier 1 is $33 million. Those would be the first projects or the highest priority projects that we would recommend approving if we do proceed with a bond. On down through, you've got 3 pages of these. I do want to point out that we have recently completed the Smith Branch watershed study and the Rocky Branch watershed study, so those projects can be broken out more specifically moving forward, but there's a big study for both of those drainage basins that talks about specific projects that need to be accomplished. So that list goes all the way through Tier 8, and we did that in tiers really because we do not know yet how much we'll be able to bond. We'll determine that through the rate study process, but we wanted to give you an idea of how we would prioritize the projects. The next list you'll see are projects that you typically would not bond. They're maintenance type projects, they're small in nature, or they're cleaning some channels or going out and doing a small amount of pipe. So those would not be bonded. We wanted to point these out because as we're going through the rate study and figuring out how much we can bond, we want to make sure that we also have enough of our stormwater utility to fund these type of projects. That will be factored into the rate study. And also want to point out that as we move more projects forward quicker, that we will need some resources to do that, staff time, and also on the back end to maintain those projects once they're completed. Talk briefly about the rate study. We would propose a rate study again, just because as we're looking to bond our stormwater utility, we have never done that before. We've always used the annual revenues to perform our stormwater work. We need to come up with the 5-year financial plan that will be necessary as we're going forward with a bond, determine the funding capacities using our stormwater utility, and also funding capacities if we wanted to increase rates. So all of that will be factored into the rate study. We also will need to we need to get our system rated because we've never issued a bond. We've never had the need to rate the stormwater utility. So we do need to do that. And we will want to assure our bond buyers that we have sufficient funds to cover our bonds. So the next steps would be to, you actually approved tonight the rate consultant to start work. So we have everything ready to send them tonight. We'll send them an email with all the information they need to get started. They will determine what level of bond we can support with our current revenues, and then they will determine what level of rate increases would be needed to support additional bond amounts from that. We'll bring that back to you. Expect the study to be complete by the end of January, and we'll push them to do quicker if possible, but we'll bring that back to you for discussion as soon as we have it. Want to point out real quick some recent projects that were completed. You've heard us talk a lot about the NRCS funding that we were able to obtain. It's $1.2 million from NRCS. Those projects are wrapping up. We've completed 3 of the 5 areas. So Penn Branch Phase Part 1, which was the wall at Converse, you probably remember seeing that wall that just collapsed into the creek during the flood. So that wall has been rebuilt. We've also cleaned the channel from Wood Lake Bridge downstream, and the Rocky Branch project's been completed. We are wrapping up the Penn Branch Phase 3, which is the Wood Lake Bridge upstream to Trentham Road, and also the Smith Branch project. There are some other areas of Gills Creek that need attention, partly in the city, partly in Forest Acres, and partly in Richland County. Well, actually, both of those are in Richland County, but the 3 agencies will be partnering together to apply for additional NRCS funding for those areas. And with that, I'm going to open it up to questions.
Mr. Baddour?
I think this is on. Thank you for the presentation. I know I missed it, I think, last work session. So talk to me about the timeline into when the study is completed, and then hopefully we'll get into maybe a bond referendum, whether this council want to go there or not, and then maybe engineering phase, and then of course after that construction. So give me some timeline. Where would that be?
Well, a lot of our projects, if you go back to the list of projects already funded, a lot of those are either in design or in construction. So we're already doing a lot of work out in the field. For the projects that are yet to be funded, most of these need to be designed. So we will need some assurance that we're going to have capacity to do these projects before we move forward with them. And that'll come with either confirmation that we can support a bond with our existing revenues, or approval that if there needs to be a rate increase, we'll go through the process of doing that to support a bond. And then we have to actually issue the bond and go through that whole process. We have to get the system rated, and all of that can be moving forward, but the rate increase has to be complete. Time-wise, some of your larger projects, Dana or Joey may want to step up and talk about time frame. Shandon, I'm going to pull that out because I know that's one that you've had a lot of conversations about and we've met on. That's a large project. It's a $12 million project. The concept has been identified. The detailed design has not. I would say that's a 12-month design process. We can push them. We could possibly break it into multiple phases and cut that shorter. But then construction would be every bit as much as that as well. I mean, that's a large project going through a very developed area. So it doesn't happen quickly. It doesn't happen without inconveniences. But at the end of it, it will definitely be a noticeable difference. And Dana's going to step up and talk about design and construction.
Come on, Dana.
Good evening. Yes, Missy and our team have been working together to try to identify all the projects that we have taken in from our stormwater engineer over, I guess, the last 10 to 15 years, trying to make sure that everything that we needed to capture was identified. What we came up with is the list, the high priority list, and that's from the complaints that Public Works gets from the flooding, addressing the concerns from constituents from all of your different districts. So we've pulled them all together. Of course, Shandon, I know you've had a lot of concerns in that area, especially with all the rainfall events recently. That is going to be a significant amount of disturbance, and it would probably be 18 months to 24 months in construction and a year out before we could even get the design plans completed and the permitting. The rest of the projects, y'all are familiar with Whaley and Maine. We have a lot of problems over there. We have to barricade those areas off, and that is part of the watershed plans that Missy had mentioned. We had the Rocky Branch watershed plan as well as the Smith Branch watershed plan, and we'll be happy to get those available to you. They're actually on our website under the stormwater page, but they have identified these as high priority projects, as these are also a public safety issue. Also, the Harlem Heights project, Mr. Davis, you're aware that we've been working with the design, and it will be completed this upcoming year, and we'll be looking at partnering with other agencies, DOT and Richland County, to see if we can get them to help us with the construction. So a lot of these projects are in different stages. Some are getting close to completion of construction plans, and some are, we have identified this as a problem. How are we going to pay for it? So that's part of the stormwater bond process.
I guess, looking into the crystal ball, looking at these projects or your experience in resolving some of these problems, where can you see the most effect or the most result or the faster result? Because, yes, I get a lot of phone calls on Shandon because it's the same house, it's the same intersection gets flooded. Yes, I get phone calls from 5 Points getting flooded where every business, the same business, it's almost the same problem for the past few years that just keep on going on. So what list or what projects out of this list that you would think it's not just priority, it's almost emergency? Because it is, I feel for these folks. I really do. And everybody on this council and everybody in the city does. So, and I'm not just saying in my area, I think Sam has got the same concerns, Ed has got the same concerns. What do you think it will be best?
Well, we have identified the 33 million. I know Missy has a lot of experience with bonding, and just given the amount of revenue we have, that's a realistic goal that we feel like might be met with our current revenue. I'm not a bond person, but we feel like the top tier list they are all extremely important, and they are based on your constituents with your concerns coming to us. Of course, the Shandon project is a full infrastructure project. So without us doing the LID like we did for that 1 million pocket, that would be you'd almost have to do the entire system down to Gills Creek to get that, alleviate those flooding issues throughout Shandon. So
is that going to help 5 Points also?
No, sir. We are also looking at MLK and some areas there where we can enhance recreation space, but also serve as potential detention. That's actually being reviewed right now.
Okay.
And that's because the majority of Shandon flows to Gills Creek, not to Rocky Branch. There's a very small section of Shandon that'll flow towards Rocky Branch, but most of it does not.
One more question. I know I've received a few more emails about Gills Creek and all the debris that is from the storm and the floods from last year. Where are we on that? I know there was some federal money that was maybe allocated, or you guys applying for?
We did. We actually applied for $1.2 million, received the funding. Those projects are wrapping up. I went over those. There were 5 areas specifically that initial funding was allocated for. 3 of those have been complete. 2 of those are basically complete, but we've not closed the projects out yet. We are partnering with Forest Acres in Richland County to apply for some additional funding because there's still some debris in Gills Creek that needs to be addressed. I know there's been some recent concerns about flooding in some of the neighborhoods. That's not all caused by debris. Some of that's caused by the upstream lakes not having dams to support them. So there's, you know, they're not retaining any water at all. So there's a combination of factors that play into that, but we are certainly working with both Forest Acres and Richland County to identify a project that NRCS can help fund to continue making a difference in that watershed.
So as an engineer, when you cleared the Gills Creek or behind some of the neighborhoods that we're talking about, is that going to help the flooding issue that they're having experiencing now, or is going to hurt, or what are you
Well, the
on?
work we've already completed certainly helps. I mean, we are very conscious. Ideally, and Mr. Davis and Ms. Devine will remember us saying this forever. Ideally, you would start at the very downstream end of your drainage channel and work upstream so that you don't create any problems. You can't always. You very seldom can start at the very extreme downstream end. But we're very conscious as we're doing projects what the impact in that immediate area is, but also what it does upstream and downstream. We absolutely do not want to push that problem to some other area.
Well, I applaud you all for, and everybody on the council for jumping on this. I know I've been crying about this for a few years now, and I think we don't need another rainstorm to move forward on this. I think this is thinking and building up our infrastructure for the future of our city. And I'm not just talking about in my district. I think everybody in the city feels the same way. So we appreciate all the hard work.
Mr. Davis?
Just a question. I kind of forgot what we talked about. That area that cuts through Golden Acres into the big viaduct, that's not on here, right? What do we call that?
Is that the Isabel Street area or the Randall Street?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We're actually looking at those right now in our engineering group, getting survey information and evaluating the entire Randall Avenue.
Okay. I was able to tell them that last night. It just so happened that I was at their meeting. So
That's great, yeah.
And that's a pretty good explanation, but there's no timeline in terms of what.
We will be modeling that in-house. So right now, they're out there picking up the
That's
survey
in-house
information.
and-
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But I guess to that, you've got it under Tier 9, so as you've prioritized it, it's not.
Low priority.
It's not.
Actually, this year, we have it funded, a piece of it, and that's like having a larger, looking at it. And right now, we're going to be focusing on that area that Mr. Davis, you and me and Robert Anderson met about. But that's also further, as we have more funding available, we'll be addressing a larger watershed in that area. We'll be focusing on that the restrictions right in that area. Can't remember which road that is. Where was it that we met over there?
Randall.
It's Randall, but was it Ashley or I can't remember.
Oh, the Randall project?
Right.
Well, that one's going to start, I guess we'll pick up downstream as opposed to upstream.
Right. We'll start from the downstream and go
Right,
up.
but
Yes,
I've
sir.
tried to explain to folks that water runs faster when it's piped from the top, and then that's where you sort of.
And we'll be evaluating any restrictions from the piping as well, opening them up if we need to.
Good. Thank y'all. Looks good.
And if, may I respond to Ms. Devine real quick before your question? We will, as we're going through the rate study, we will better know how much we can bond, because right now that's a big unknown. So some of these may change based on what that determination is. Certainly the top 33 million, which is Tier 1, were the projects that we brought forward as the highest priority.
Mr. Duval?
Thank you. great job from the staff. Y'all done a wonderful job putting this project list together. My question is, have you looked to make sure that doing one project doesn't cause problems in another place? Have you got them sequentially done so that if you do a project here, it doesn't flood downstream? Got them in the right order?
Yes, sir. In fact, that's why some of these are identified from our watershed plans. We were looking at those, and we've already talked to the consultant who had performed that watershed plan and did priorities based on that as well.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Let's get it going. Do you need a motion from us?
To move forward with the rate study? Okay, is there a motion to move forward with the rate study? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second. If the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Mr. Badura.
Aye.
Mr. Vine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
I do want to say thank you to Missy and all of the staff for their hard work on this. We know the urgency that council has with these stormwater projects. Mr. Palin is at GFOA conference, so he's been texting, trying to make sure and watching on the stream. So, Jeff, you've got approval to move forward with your stormwater bond rate study. Thank you.
All right.
Bit of appointments, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
All right. I think the first appointment we have is for BPAC, and I know maybe we need to divide this up. We are asked to approve to reappoint 2 individuals and then appoint 5 individuals.
Correct.
I know Mr. Davis would like to reserve the District 1 appointment so we can hold that one out. I will say that based on the applications that we have, I did ask the chair of BPAC to look at the applications and give us some recommendations, and he has done that. And I can go through those, but I did want to make sure that everyone knows as far as appointments go, this is a very important committee, especially so we can continue to move towards our higher designations as far as a bicycle-friendly city and do some of the recommendations that I saw in Copenhagen, and I know John and Dana and others have been working on. But this committee has had a hard time getting participation. And so it is very important that we have appointees that are going to come, that are going to participate, that are knowledgeable and willing to really work on this committee. We've got a lot of things on our plate right now that this committee is going to be integral in trying to help us get to. So I did want to say that. With that said, the committee is asking, the reappointments are Jean Bell and Michael Juris, and so they're asking that we reappoint them. Do we have a motion to reappoint those 2 people?
So move.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Can the clerk read the roll?
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Mr. Badura, Mr. Vine.
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Davis.
And then as far as the appointments, we've got 5 appointments. We've got a lot of very qualified people. I think that Shanique has actually forwarded to council the memo that Mr. Goslin did regarding the appointments after he reviewed the applications. Based on that and knowing that we want to reserve one out for Mr. Davis, I would ask that this council, I'm sorry, Mr. McDowell, you have. We actually had 2 that were previously appointed, and one kind of stopped coming and one resigned. Mr. Goslin, looking at the appointees and part of the recommendations, there are 2 members from District 2. One lives on Gervais Street and one lives on Governor's Hill that they're recommending. And so I don't know if you would be interested in appointing them. One is Ernest Grigg, and I can tell you what Keith said regarding their qualifications. But one of these appointments, I think Jana Hirsch, and I think Ms. Hirsch may have called us. I don't know if she's contacted everybody. Ernest Grigg, they said that he has actually has similar community community committee experience in New York. And then Jana Hirsch is a healthy living expert and assistant professor at USC at the Arnold School of Public Health. And so those are the two that currently live in District 2 that they were recommending. Okay. Yeah, his application's on here as well. He's on the list.
Is he?
He's on the list. Okay. Okay, so you would like to, okay. So as the District 2 representative, Brian Faulkner.
That would still leave one for Sam if we did him and the other three.
It would be, that would be one, yeah, we could still leave one for Sam, and then you're saying we'd have 3 more appointees?
Right.
Yes. So I guess out of those, I had 4 that I thought looked really, really good. So let me just share with you what was shared with us on this, and we can decide out of these. I've already mentioned Mr. Grigg and Ms. Hirsch. There's also Christina Giraldi, who's been recommended by a current BPAC member. She also has a master's in regional planning and is a project manager at Department of Health and Human Services. So that is somebody that they've recommended as well. And I did communicate with her, and she sounds very excited to participate. Then there's also Scott Thorpe, who is a director at DHEC, and he has also served on similar committees in Baltimore and has grant writing experience, which BPAC is very interested in trying to apply for some grants to help us do some of the things that we currently don't have funding for. So out of those 4, is there a preference?
I don't. Just that one in reserve.
I like the last 2, the one that had experience on the thing and the one that works for.
Okay.
One was
All right, and then what about Mr. Grigg? He lives on Governor's Hill. He also has experience in a similar committee in New York, which New York also has a bike share program, so that might be helpful.
Plus Mr. Faulkner that Ed wants.
So Faulkner, that's still 2. I mean, these other they're at large, so they can be. So Faulkner, so we could appoint Brian Faulkner, Ernest Grigg, Scott Thorpe, and Christina Giraldi. At least the one open for
At
Sam.
least one for Sam.
Yeah.
Okay, is that good? Mr. Thorpe he lives in District 3. Okay. All right, so is there a motion for those 4? Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Can the clerk read the roll?
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Mr. Bedora, Ms. Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
And I guess the other thing, Dana, if you could maybe relay this to John. I was very impressed with a lot of these people, and I think the way we have the committee structured, of course, we have a certain number. There may not be a desire to increase the number, but there may be an opportunity to ask for volunteers and other things. So if we could maybe just ask John to talk to Keith about that. I'm going to meet with BPAC in December, but maybe in their November meeting, John can talk to them about the makeup of the committee and see if there's some desire to maybe get some of these other people who didn't get appointed engaged in some other way. Okay. And Mr. Davis, would you be able to have an appointment by November, our first meeting in November?
I should.
Okay, thank you.
I most certainly will.
Okay. And because I stress that we are on track to continue our bicycle friendliness designation, and then we have actually already, of course, you all know I came back with lots of ideas from Copenhagen, and I'd like to see us try and get some of that stuff implemented, and we need this committee full functioning to help us do that.
The next thing on your agenda is an appointment, a reappointment to the Columbia Museum of Art Commission.
I move to reappointment of Mr. Rogers.
Who is it? Who's the individual?
Howard, the name again, Howard?
Ron Rogers.
Ron.
Isn't it Ron Rogers?
Yes.
Ron Rogers.
Ron Rogers.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to reappoint Mr. Ron Rogers. If the clerk would read the roll.
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Badura, Ms. Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
I think, Ms. Wilson, we do have a couple of committee referrals. I think Mr. Duval has one.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to refer to the Public Safety Committee, a request that they study the bar opening hours. Tamika and I visited the University Hills Neighborhood Association, and that was an item of concern for them, and I believe that the chief also wants to look at that.
Yes. I mean, closing hours.
Closing hours.
Yeah.
Closing hours. And I would like to ask permission from the council to serve on that committee in the stead of Ms. Plow until a replacement is made on for
Howard, Sam, and
Ed.
Mr.
Yeah.
Davis and Ms. Plow and.
yeah. So the motion is to refer bar closing hours to the Public Safety Committee and to allow Mr. Duval to serve on that committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, it's been properly moved in second. If the clerk would read the roll.
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Badura, Ms. Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
And I also wanted to refer to the Policy and Administrative and Policy Committee, the review of our current healthy vending ordinance. I think Mr. Davis is looking, and Mr. Randy Davis is coming up with a draft. Mr. Baker, I think he's almost done with, oh, I didn't see you, Randy. We're almost done with that, right? So.
Healthy vending.
Okay, so our healthy vending ordinance, we passed several years ago, so it needs to be updated. Mr. Davis has worked on some amendments to that, so I'd like to refer review of those amendments to the Administrative and Policy Committee. Is there a second to my motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. If Ms. Moore would read the roll?
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Badura, Ms. Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
All right, are there any other referrals or committee reports? Okay, well, we got to see if there's any public first. Is there any public that would like to say anything? Ms. Brown, it's good to see you. Big brothers and big sisters, we have anything from you guys? Boys and Girls Club? Nothing? Okay. So seeing no public that would like to say anything simple, going once and twice. That's it. Then there's a motion to adjourn.
Second.
7:49 p.m.
I said peer pressure is something else. I should have stuck with my 8 o'clock because I said I was at 8 o'clock. But all right, so we have a motion. If the clerk would call the roll.
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Duval.
Aye.
I'm coming back to you. Thank you. Mr. Badura, Ms. Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis. You all have a good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.